Justice finally caught up with Brittney Griner in the most savage way possible. After her racist attack on CaitlinClark exploded online and the WNBA tried to cover it up, karma came knocking with the ultimate payback.
Indiana Fever and Atlanta Dream played. Indiana Fever is where CaitlinClark plays. Atlanta Dream is where Brittney Griner plays. Now you tell me what it looks like Brittney Griner is saying here.
For the ticky-tack fouls that we were talking about earlier today.
For a little bit of context, this was in the fourth quarter after Brittney Griner fouled out against CaitlinClark and Indiana Fever would go on to win by 5. Now I'm going to tell you what I think she said. Let's play it back. Looks to me like she is saying trash and then calling CaitlinClark a plebe white girl. Just a reminder, this is who Joe Biden traded for the Russian merchant of death. So many WNBA players hate CaitlinClark so much when she is the best thing that could have happened to the league. And she's not the best thing that happened to the league because she's white. It's
the league that protected her for weeks has finally made a decision that flips everything upside down. Brittney Griner's entire career might be hanging by a thread. And honestly, she earned every bit of what's headed her way. What's more, you're satisfying. Seeing Griner finally face real consequences for her racist comments, or watching the WNBA grow a backbone and actually start enforcing its own rules. The moment fans across the country have been waiting for is finally here. And Brittney Griner is about to learn, painfully, that actions have consequences. After weeks of the WNBA pretending her attack on CaitlinClark never happened, the league office just dropped a bombshell that's sending shockwaves through the basketball world. The same organization that bent over backwards to shield her from accountability is now being forced to act. And the result is absolutely devastating, both for Griner and for the league's reputation.
If you want to get people never to watch the WNBA, this is an amazing way to do it. If the league is going to be rooted in this sort of nastiness with regard to its only real star, good luck to them. Well, folks, the left has a real problem in the United States. They've spent the last several decades talking about how racism is an endemic problem in American life. And there's a problem with that problem, which is there's not...
Let's break down what sparked this instant karma. Griner was clearly caught on camera mouthing trash fucking white girl after fouling out during a heated game against CaitlinClark and the Indiana Fever. No hiding that now.
Brittney Griner was caught on tape during a game with the Indiana Fever, dropping racial slurs against CaitlinClark, and pretty obviously doing so.
Ticky-tack fouls that we were talking about earlier today.
And it doesn't take a lot of genius to lip read Brittney Griner, whose voice, by the way, is about as low as mine is, calling her trash and an effing white girl. Now, of course, if CaitlinClark had ever suggested the same in reverse, using black as opposed to white in that sentence, that'd be the end of her WNBA career. But Brittney Griner is going strong.
The footage was undeniable, clear as day. Multiple professional lip readers verified exactly what was said, and the racist intent was obvious to anyone with functioning eyes. But instead of taking swift action, the WNBA dove headfirst into damage, control, doing everything possible to protect their prized veteran. This is the same league that once launched full-scale investigations over phantom racism from Indiana Fever fans. Yet, when actual racism was caught on national TV, they suddenly played blind. They brushed off the outrage, buried the evidence, and prayed the storm would pass. But karma never misses. And Griner's protective bubble just violently burst, front and center.
What else happened to everybody else?
I mean, I know there's always consequences to actions. You know, what I did, I already know that I was going to get, some time for that. And, I respect, I got 3 games. Okay. Not disputing that at all. Do I think that it shouldn't have been 3 across the board, boom, everybody involved in it, 3-3-3. I think that would have been honestly fair. I would have been happy today with that. Not happy today, and it's not because of my suspension. I take on
the contract suspension Brittney Griner just received isn't about a single incident. It's about a clear pattern the league can no longer ignore or excuse. This is the same player who complained about crowd noise because fans were finally paying attention to the games. The same athlete who was rescued from international imprisonment only to turn around and make racist remarks about fellow Americans. Her entitlement and ingratitude have finally caught up with her, and the league's patience has run out.
Griner is playing a game, and this is what Brittney Griner calls. I was not going to comment on any of this stuff until this took place. Watch what she says. The entire internet has reacted to this. Here's Brittney Griner. They're playing against the Indiana Fever, and look what she's saying. Go ahead, Rob.
Or the ticky-tack fouls that we were talking about earlier today.
Well, that pretty much sounds like trash effing white girl.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest.
So the whole market reacts to this with Brittney Griner, right? And then the other quote, Rob, then I'm going to wrap this up and then I'm going to go to Adam. Put the quote of Brittney Griner, what she said about the NBA. This is so funny how all this stuff works out, right? She says, this is from Brittney. Every time we play her, there's this commotion, like this loud rumbling from the stands. Turns out it's people, thousands of them, just sitting there, watching on purpose. It's very disruptive. It's called a freaking game that they pay you money to play.
The financial fallout from Brittney Griner's suspension is absolutely brutal. She's not only losing game checks, but also countless endorsement deals, sponsorship opportunities, and any real chance to repair her shattered reputation after this massive controversy. The prisoner exchange that brought her home cost the United States a convicted arms dealer, yet her response has been nothing but blatant ingratitude and open hostility toward the very country that saved her life. Every dollar she loses now serves as a painful reminder of how much she threw away in a moment of racist anger. What makes this karma especially fitting is the timing. The WNBA's decision comes exactly when the league can no longer afford to protect problematic players. CaitlinClark has injected unprecedented attention, energy, and revenue into the league, attracting casual fans who discovered women's basketball through her electrifying play. Those fans will simply not tolerate racist behavior from veteran players who should absolutely know better. The business case for accountability finally outweighed the politics of protection. When the suspension was announced, shockwaves rippled across social media. Most assumed Griner was untouchable. She had survived racist comments, complaints about fan enthusiasm, and a career marked by an attitude of entitlement. But this moment proves even players long shielded by victimhood have limits on what they can get away with. That protective shield has finally cracked, exposing her to the consequences she so desperately tried to avoid.
By Adam Johnson.
BG, right now you have 10 points, 5 rebounds. We see the Atlanta Dream as being very... Right now she's talking to the refs about holding. We're going to send it back to you guys.
Very important question.
The timing of this suspension couldn't be worse for Brittney Griner or the WNBA. It comes at a critical moment when the league is riding the wave of growth sparked by CaitlinClark. Sponsors and TV networks are watching closely, and they don't want any association with players caught making racist remarks on national TV. Finally, the league office realized that protecting Griner was doing more damage than punishing her ever would. In the end, money talks. Her racist behavior was just too costly to ignore. What's wild is that the contract language allowing this suspension has been there all along. Buried deep inside those standard player agreements, nobody really reads. The WNBA had the power to act from day one, but chose not to, until the financial pressure became impossible to overlook. That initial hesitation only makes this punishment feel even sweeter. Justice may have been delayed, but it sure wasn't denied. Now Griner's teammates and defenders are scrambling, arguing the suspension's unfair. The evidence is shaky, and veteran players deserve more leeway. But none of those claims change the fact that she was caught on live TV, making racist comments about the league's biggest star. The video is crystal clear, and no spin doctoring can erase what everyone saw. Clark supporters have been pushing for accountability for weeks, and this suspension feels like the justice they've been waiting for. They watched the WNBA protect Griner, while simultaneously investigating imaginary racism from Indiana Fever fans. This moment ends that double standard. Relief is sweeping through the basketball community because people were seriously losing faith in the league's commitment to its values. The precedent here is huge. No player, no matter how big their name, is above the rules. This is exactly the accountability professional sports leagues need to maintain trust with fans and sponsors alike. The media coverage of Griner's suspension has been especially harsh. Journalists are now forced to face their own bias because many outlets initially downplayed or even ignored the racist comments. Suddenly, they have to explain why they weren't, louder in demanding accountability from the start. The gap between what fans expected and what the media delivered has never been clearer. Financially, this suspension is a massive blow to Griner. She's not just missing out on game paychecks. Endorsement deals are quietly getting cancelled. Speaking engagements are being pulled, and future earning opportunities are drying up fast. The cost of her racist remarks will follow her for years, and honestly, that's exactly how it should be. Corporate America has zero tolerance for racist behavior, especially when it's caught on video and spreads like wildfire on social media. This situation also shines a harsh light on the WNBA's No Space for Hate campaign, which now looks like empty marketing. They launched it with big fanfare, but then turned a blind eye to the most obvious violation of their own values. The fact that it took outside pressure to force any real action shows how superficial their commitment was from the start. The hypocrisy here is staggering, even by professional sports standards. What really makes this whole saga even more intense is the context of Griner's return to the US through that high-profile prisoner exchange. The United States literally traded a convicted arms dealer to bring her home. And instead of gratitude, she responded with racist attacks against fellow American athletes. That level of entitlement and ingratitude is downright shocking, and it makes this suspension feel like poetic justice. Watching her fall from grace now is almost satisfying, because it highlights just how far she's fallen. The impact on other WNBA players is huge too. They're seeing firsthand that the league's protection isn't guaranteed anymore. Players who once got away with problematic behavior are now questioning if they might be next. This new culture of accountability could be a game changer for the entire league. Fear of consequences is one of the strongest motivators for real behavior change. The timing of this suspension couldn't be worse for the WNBA because it hits right when they're in the middle of crucial TV negotiations and sponsorship renewals. They simply can't afford to have this kind of racist controversy hanging over those discussions. Protecting Griner was becoming more expensive than punishing her, and that financial reality finally forced the league's hand. When millions of dollars are on the line, the business case for accountability becomes impossible to ignore. The social media reaction has been overwhelmingly positive. Fans who'd lost faith in the WNBA's commitment to its stated values are actually celebrating this rare moment of real accountability. This shows that taking action was not just the right moral decision, but also the right business move. Public opinion was clearly against Griner from the moment the video hit the internet. Legally, this suspension could lead to a challenge from Griner, but the evidence is rock solid, and the contract language is crystal clear. Any legal fight would probably backfire, just drawing more attention to her racist remarks and making her look even worse. On the coaching and management side, this sends a strong message. The league is serious about enforcing conduct rules. Teams that have been turning a blind eye to problematic players are rethinking their approach. Protecting difficult players now comes with a much higher cost, and general managers are definitely paying attention. Internationally, Griner's behavior casts a shadow over American basketball. The world is watching how the WNBA handles these issues. A firm response sends the right message about American values and professionalism, especially after the embarrassment of that prisoner exchange. Fans' reactions have been telling too. Many had lost trust in the league after their initial inaction, but this suspension is a chance to rebuild some of that confidence. It could be a turning point, but only if the league follows through consistently. For Griner herself, this suspension is probably crushing. She clearly thought she was untouchable, protected through international drama, domestic controversies, and now this racist incident. Realizing the league has finally dropped that shield has to be a harsh wake-up call, and the precedent this sets is huge. Other players are watching closely to see if the WNBA will enforce these standards consistently going forward. If it does, this could prevent future incidents through real deterrence. But if this ends up as a one-off, the problems will just keep coming, and the league's credibility will take another hit. Sponsors have also reacted quickly and decisively. Companies don't want to be linked to racist behavior. It's a major liability, especially in today's fast-moving social media world, where bad news spreads instantly. This financial pressure on the league likely played a big role in pushing them to act. The impact on CaitlinClark has been significant too. She's had to deal with a lot of hostility while trying to stay focused and professional. Now that the league has finally taken action, it sends a clear message that her contributions are valued and that she doesn't have to put up with racist abuse from veteran players. The protection she deserved from the start is finally being given. This whole situation goes beyond just basketball. It's about accountability in professional sports in general. Other leagues are watching how the WNBA handles this, and strong. Enforcement could encourage similar moves across the board. But if the response is weak, it sends the message that racist behavior is okay if you're valuable enough. Coaches and staff have also had to navigate a tricky line. They're caught between supporting their players and protecting their own reputations. Many coaches who might have been expected to defend Griner are now stepping back, distancing themselves from her comments. This suspension actually gives them cover to take a stronger stance without seeming disloyal. Meanwhile, agents and managers are dealing with a client whose marketability has taken a huge hit. Future contract talks are going to be tougher now, that teams know her problematic behavior is part of the package. She's become more of a liability than an asset, which changes everything for her career prospects. Talk about retirement speculation. This suspension has already sparked rumors that Griner's career might be nearing its end. At her age, and with this controversy hanging over her, finding new opportunities is going to be incredibly tough. It could very well mark the end of her professional basketball journey, which feels like a fitting end considering years of troubling behavior. The biggest blow might be to her legacy. Her achievements on the court are now overshadowed by this racist incident. Whenever people talk about her career from now on, this controversy will always be part of the conversation. She traded a positive legacy for a moment of anger and prejudice, and it's clear that trade didn't pay off. Her place in basketball history is now permanently stained. When you compare Griner's suspension to others in the league, it's clear how much protection she had for years. Lesser-known players have faced immediate punishments for far smaller offenses. The double standard was obvious for a long time, but this suspension finally says that being a star doesn't excuse racist behavior. The league is finally applying its rules equally, which is a huge step forward. The investigation that led to this suspension was thorough. The league reviewed extra footage and collected testimonies from players and officials who witnessed the incident. They couldn't ignore the mounting evidence that Griner's actions were intentional and racially motivated. This solid investigation makes the suspension nearly impossible to appeal or overturn. The PR nightmare this whole situation created for the WNBA can't be overstated. The league worked hard to build strong relationships with sponsors, broadcasters, and fans, only to have all that progress threatened by one player's racist outburst. This suspension is as much about protecting the league's reputation as it is about punishing individual misconduct. The WNBA is reportedly planning to require Griner to go through educational programs as part of any future return. We're talking sensitivity training, community service, and public apologies. For someone with Griner's ego, having to go through these steps is going to be a real humbling experience. The most satisfying part of this whole situation? Watching instant karma deliver justice to someone who thought they were untouchable. Griner acted entitled and ungrateful for years, and it all came to a head with her racist attacks on the very player who's been elevating the league. This suspension proves one undeniable truth. Everyone faces consequences eventually, no matter how protected they think they are. Brittney Griner finally learned that actions have consequences. And in the most brutal way possible. The WNBA suspension shows that even the most protected players can't escape justice forever. Karma delivered the perfect punishment for her racist attack on CaitlinClark. If you think justice was served, hit that like button and subscribe for more moments where accountability matters.